The lights on the Unity station were always too bright. They hummed with a low, electric sound that made Tom Miller's teeth hurt. He stood in the middle of the long hallway, waiting for the elevator. He adjusted his tie. It felt tight around his neck, but he needed to look professional. He was the face of Earth today. He held a thick folder under his arm. The folder contained the peace treaty, or what was left of it. The negotiations were not going well. The aliens on the other side of the table were called the Krillorians. They were tall, with skin that looked like gray stone and eyes that were completely black. They did not like to talk. They liked to give orders. Tom was just there to listen and say no, but they did not like that answer. The elevator door slid open with a hiss. Tom stepped inside, but he did not push a button. He just waited. He knew who was coming. Leaving so soon, human. The voice was deep and sounded like gravel rubbing together. Tom looked up. Standing in the hallway was Commander Vex. He was the head of the Krillorian fleet. He was massive, almost 7 feet tall. Behind him were 2 guards, just as big and just as scary. They wore shiny black armor and held spears that hummed with energy. Tom smiled a small, tired smile. "Hello, Commander. The session is over for the day. We can talk more in the morning." Vex walked into the elevator before the doors could close. His 2 guards followed him. The space suddenly became very small. The air smelled like ozone and something sour. Vex loomed over Tom. He looked down at the human as if he were looking at a bug. "I do not wish to wait for the morning," Vex said. "You are wasting my time. Your species is primitive. You do not understand the galaxy. You are like children playing with toys you do not know how to use." Tom gripped his folder tighter. "We are not children, Commander. We have rights. The moon is ours. We terraformed it. We built cities there. You cannot just take it because you want it." Vex laughed. It was a dry, hacking sound. "Rights? There are no rights in space. There is only power. And you have none. Your ships are slow. Your bodies are weak. You are soft." The elevator began to move, but very slowly. Tom wished it would go faster. He felt sweat on his back. He was not a soldier. He was a diplomat. He studied history and politics. He was not built to fight 7-foot lizards with energy spears. "We prefer diplomacy," Tom said calmly. "We want peace. But we will defend what is ours." Vex stepped closer. His face was inches from Tom's. Tom could see his reflection in Vex's black eyes. Vex showed his teeth. They were pointed and yellow. "Defend," Vex hissed. "With what? Your words, they mean nothing to me. The Federation is weak because they let vermin like you sit at the big table. You think you are equal to me? You are nothing." The elevator stopped. The doors opened to a lobby that led to the living quarters. Tom took a step to leave, to get away from the anger radiating off the alien. He just wanted to go to his room and call his wife. "Please, move aside, Commander," Tom said politely. Vex did not move. "You are rude. You interrupt a superior being. You refuse our generous offer to let you live as servants on your own moon." "I am refusing to be a slave," Tom said. His voice was steady, but his heart was beating very fast. "Now, excuse me." Tom tried to squeeze past the commander. He turned his shoulder to slide through the gap between Vex and the wall. It was a mistake. Vex moved faster than Tom thought possible. The alien grabbed Tom by the shoulder. The grip was like iron. It hurt instantly. Vex spun Tom around and shoved him back. Tom slammed into the metal wall of the elevator. He dropped his folder. Papers scattered everywhere. "You do not turn your back on me," Vex growled. Tom looked up, dazed. "I was just leaving." "You are dismissed when I say you are dismissed," Vex shouted. The commander pulled his hand back. He made a fist. Tom saw it coming. He knew he could not stop it. He was not a fighter. He braced himself. There was a loud thwack. Vex punched Tom in the side of the face. The blow was hard. Tom's head snapped to the side. He fell to the floor. His vision went white for a second, then blurry. He could taste blood in his mouth. His lip was split. Tom lay on the cold floor of the elevator. He groaned and touched his face. It hurt a lot. He felt dizzy. Vex shook his hand, as if hitting the human had hurt his knuckles. He looked down at Tom with disgust. "Pathetic," Vex spat. "Your bones are like glass. Your skin is like paper. This is what you send to negotiate with the Empire, a joke." The two guards laughed. It was a hollow, scary sound. "Get up," Vex commanded. Tom tried to push himself up. His arm was shaking. He felt humiliated. He felt small. He gathered his scattered papers with trembling hands. He did not look at Vex. He just wanted the floor to open up and swallow him. "Stay down, where you belong," Vex said. He kicked one of the papers away from Tom. "Remember this feeling. Remember that you are weak. Tomorrow, you will sign the papers. Or next time, I will break more than your lip." Vex stepped over Tom and walked out of the elevator. His heavy boots clanged on the metal floor. The guards followed him, laughing among themselves. They did not even look back. They did not see Tom as a threat. They saw him as a thing they could crush whenever they wanted. The elevator doors stayed open for a long time. The hallway was empty now. Tom sat on the floor, holding his bleeding lip. He took a deep breath. He wiped his mouth with his handkerchief. It came away red. He slowly stood up. He picked up the last of his papers. He straightened his jacket. He looked at the empty hallway where the aliens had gone. He looked tired and beaten. Anyone looking at him would see a victim. They would see a weak human who had just been bullied by a stronger species. Tom walked out of the elevator slowly. He walked toward his quarters. He held his head down. He looked the part of the defeated diplomat perfectly. But if anyone looked very closely at his eyes, they would not see fear. They would not see sadness. They would see a cold, calculated look. As he walked down the quiet corridor, he passed a dark vent in the wall. It was a maintenance grate, covered in shadows. Tom did not stop walking. He did not look at it. He just gave the smallest nod of his head. It was so small that anyone watching would have missed it. He continued walking to his room, alone. Behind the grate, deep in the shadows of the ventilation shaft, something moved. It was not a machine. It was a man dressed in a suit that seemed to ripple and disappear into the darkness. He had been watching the whole time. He had seen the punch. He had seen the blood. The man in the shadows did not rush out to help. He did not make a sound. He just watched Tom walk away. Then, he turned his head, and his invisible eyes locked onto the hallway where Commander Vex had gone. The Predator had just woken up. And the Krillorians had no idea that death was standing right behind them. The maintenance tunnel was dark, cold, and very narrow. It smelled like old metal and recycled air. Most species in the galaxy would refuse to crawl through such a place. They valued comfort and cleanliness too much. But the person moving through the tunnel now did not care about comfort. He cared about the job. His name was Alex. He was a security attaché for the human delegation, at least that was what it said on his official ID badge. To the station crew, he was just another quiet human in a gray suit who carried a coffee cup. But inside the suit, he was something very different. Alex moved on his hands and knees. He was silent. The suit he wore was special. It was not normal cloth. It was made of smart scales. It bent light around his body. If he stood in a dark corner, he looked like the darkness. If he stood against a gray wall, he looked like the wall. Right now, in the black vent, he was almost invisible. He stopped moving. He was above a junction in the hallway. Below him, through the thin metal bars of a vent grate, he could see the floor. He had seen everything that happened in the elevator. He had seen Vex grab Tom. He had seen the punch. He had seen Tom fall. Alex felt nothing. His heart rate was steady. It was beating at 50 beats per minute. A normal person would be angry. They would want to rush down and fight. But Alex was not a normal person. He was a wraith. He was part of a special unit in the Human Defense Force. His training was very hard. They taught him to control his emotions. They taught him that anger makes you slow. Patience makes you deadly. He looked at a small screen on his left wrist. It glowed with a soft red light that only he could see. The screen showed a map of the station. There was a green dot for Tom. The green dot was moving safely toward the human quarters. Good. Tom was safe. Then there was a red dot. The red dot was moving away from the elevator. It was Vex. Alex watched the red dot. He waited. In the galaxy, humans were often called the baseline. Other aliens were stronger. Some had telepathy. Some had 4 arms. Humans were just soft bodies with 2 legs. The aliens thought this made humans weak. They did not know that humans had survived thousands of years of war on their own planet before they ever left the ground. They did not know that humans could be the most dangerous hunters in the universe because they were persistent. They did not give up. Alex adjusted his gloves. The gloves had sticky pads on the palms. He could climb up walls or hang from ceilings without making a sound. He was like a spider. He checked his heads-up display, or HUD. It was a tiny glass screen that covered his right eye. It showed him information about the environment. It could see heat. It could detect heartbeats. Target, Commander Vex, the screen read. Status, active. The rules of the Galactic Federation were very clear. Diplomats had protection. You could not hurt them. But Vex had broken the rules. He had attacked a diplomat in a neutral zone. That was a crime. But the Federation would take years to investigate it. They would write letters. They would have meetings. They would do nothing. Tom did not want them to do nothing. That was why Alex was here. Alex began to crawl again. He followed the red dot on his map. The map showed that Vex was heading to the VIP section of the station. That was where the aliens had their big rooms. The rooms were fancy. They had thick walls. They had good security systems. Alex did not worry about the security. He had a small device in his pocket. It could talk to computers. It could tell the cameras to look the other way. It could tell the door locks to open. It was a hacking tool, but it was very simple to use. It looked like a black pen. He reached another grate. He looked down. He saw two Krillorian guards standing in front of a door. They were the same guards from the elevator. They were laughing. They were holding their energy spears. They looked proud. Alex watched them for a long time. He did not blink often. He breathed slowly through his nose. He was recording their voices. He was recording the pattern of their movements. One guard shifted his weight to his left leg every 10 seconds. The other tapped his finger on his spear. Knowledge is power, Alex's instructor used to say. When you know your enemy, you can kill him before he knows he is dead. The door opened, and Vex walked out. He looked even bigger in the bright lights of the hallway. He looked happy. Did you see the look on his face? Vex said to his guards. The fear. The weakness. Yes, Commander, one guard said. The humans are soft. They break easily. They are not worthy of the station, Vex said. Tomorrow, I will make him sign the papers. If he says no, I will break his arm. The guards laughed again. They thought violence was funny. Vex walked away down the hall, probably to get food or drink. The guards stayed at the door. Alex looked at the red dot moving away. Then he looked at the guards. He had a choice. He could stay here and watch the door, or he could follow Vex. The HUD on his eye gave him a suggestion. Priority target, Vex. Alex decided to follow Vex. He moved through the tunnels again. It was like a maze above the ceilings. The station was huge. He had to be careful. There were sensors in the tunnels that looked for movement. He had to move when the fans were blowing. The noise of the fan covered the sound of his suit. He found a spot above the main lounge. This was a room for the important aliens. They had expensive chairs and a view of the stars. He peered through a vent at the ceiling. Vex was there. He was sitting on a soft sofa. He was holding a glass of purple liquid. He was drinking it slowly. He was looking out the window at the stars. To anyone else, Vex looked like a powerful leader enjoying a rest. But Alex saw something different. The HUD highlighted heat signatures. Alex could see the heat rising from Vex's body. He could see the pulse in the alien's neck. Vex was relaxed. He felt safe. He thought he was the strongest thing on the station. Alex watched him like a hawk watches a mouse. He was memorizing the shape of Vex's head. He was looking for the armor plates on Vex's chest. He was looking for the gaps in the protection. He was not there to shoot Vex. Guns were loud and messy. Bullets could go through walls and hit innocent people. Alex preferred the quiet way. He had a knife on his belt. It was a special knife. The edge was only 1 molecule thick. It could cut through metal like it was butter. It would cut through a Krillorian like they were smoke. But he did not use the knife yet. Tom's voice echoed in Alex's memory. We want peace, Alex. Don't start a war unless you have to. Tom was the boss. Tom was the diplomat. Alex was the tool. Tom let Vex punch him. Tom let Vex humiliate him. Why? Because Tom knew that Vex was arrogant. Vex was cocky. And when people are cocky, they make mistakes. Vex took another drink of his purple liquid. He laughed to himself. He thought he had won the day. He thought he had scared the human. He had no idea that the human he punched was the bait. He had no idea that the predator was already in the room. He had no idea that Alex was hanging directly above his head, silent as a shadow, waiting for the order to strike. Death was not coming for Vex in the future. It was already there. It was watching him drink. It was watching him breathe. And it was very, very patient. Alex checked his oxygen levels. He checked his battery power. He was good for hours. He settled in. The hunt had begun. The private quarters of Commander Vex were located in the most expensive part of the station. The room was large and circular. The walls were made of a shiny black stone that looked like it came from a volcano. In the middle of the room, there was a large table made of glass. Soft blue lights came from the floor, making the room look like it was underwater. Vex sat in a big chair that looked like a throne. He was holding a glass of a thick, dark drink. It was called Krillorian brandy. It was very strong, but Vex did not feel the burn. He only felt the warmth in his stomach. He was not alone. 3 of his officers were with him. They were sitting on smaller chairs around the glass table. They were all big, strong aliens with scaled skin and sharp teeth. They wore their uniforms with pride. They had finished their duty for the day, and now they were relaxing. "You should have seen him," Vex said, his voice booming in the quiet room. He took a sip of his drink. "The human. The one called Tom." He looked at me with those small, watery eyes. He thought his words could stop me. The officers laughed. One of them, a tall female with red scales, slammed her hand on the table. "The Federation gives these monkeys too much power," she said. "They act like they own the stars. But today, you showed them the truth, Commander." "I did more than show him," Vex said, leaning forward. His black eyes shone with excitement. "I struck him. I hit him right in the face. And he fell. He fell like a child." The room filled with laughter again. To them, violence against a weak species was funny. They did not see it as a crime. They saw it as a lesson. They believed that the universe had a hierarchy. The strong were at the top. The weak were at the bottom. Humans were at the very bottom. He tried to walk away, Vex continued, enjoying the story. He tried to leave the elevator. I had to teach him respect. He is lucky I did not break his neck. "They are fragile," the red-scaled female said. "Their bones snap easily. Their skin tears. It is almost not worth the effort to fight them. That is why we will take their moon," Vex said confidently. "They cannot stop us. Tomorrow, Tom will come back. He will see the bruise on his face. He will remember the pain. And he will sign whatever paper I put in front of him." Vex stood up and walked to the window. The window was huge. It showed the beautiful view of the galaxy. Stars were spinning in the distance. He looked at his own reflection in the glass. He looked powerful. He felt invincible. "Prepare the report for the Emperor," Vex told his officers. "Tell him that the negotiations are going well. Tell him that the humans are afraid." "Yes, Commander," one officer said. He started typing on a holographic pad. Vex turned away from the window. He felt good. The stress of the day was gone. He felt superior. He believed that nothing in the universe could touch him. But he was wrong. In the corner of the room, where the light from the floor did not reach, there was a shadow. It was a dark patch behind a large statue of a Krillorian warrior. The shadow looked perfectly normal. It looked like it belonged there. But inside that shadow, Alex was standing. He was not sitting. He was standing perfectly still. His suit was shifting colors slowly. It mimicked the dark gray of the wall behind him. To the naked eye, The corner was empty. Alex did not blink. He did not move a muscle. He had been standing there for 20 minutes. He had walked into the room while the guards were changing shifts at the door. He had used his hacking tool to disable the cameras in this room for 5 minutes. He had just enough time. He listened to every word Vex said. He heard them laugh about Tom. He heard them call humans monkeys and fragile. Most people would feel angry hearing these things. They would want to scream. But Alex did not feel anger. He felt focus. His breathing was so slow that it made no sound. He had filters over his mouth and nose that scrubbed the carbon dioxide from his breath, so he did not even exhale warm air that could be seen by heat sensors. He looked at the back of Vex's head. The HUD on Alex's eye was giving him information. It drew a red line on Vex. It highlighted the neck. It highlighted the heart. It highlighted the gaps in the armor that Vex wore under his uniform. Alex put his hand on his belt. He felt the handle of his knife. It was cold. He could pull it out in less than a second. He could throw it across the room and it would hit Vex in the neck before the alien even heard the sound of the blade leaving his hand. But he did not do it. Tom's orders were clear. Do not kill them unless it is necessary. We do not want a war. We want them to fear us. Fear is stronger than death, Alex knew. If Vex died now, the Krillorians would send a fleet. They would attack Earth. Many humans would die. But if Vex became scared, if Vex realized that he was not safe, if Vex understood that death could have taken him at any moment, that would be a victory. So, Alex waited. He watched them celebrate their arrogance. I am going to my bedroom, Vex said suddenly. I am tired. Keep working on the report. Yes, Commander, the officers said. Vex turned and walked toward the bedroom door. It was on the other side of the room. He had to walk past the corner where Alex was standing. Alex's heart rate stayed at 50 beats per minute. He pressed his back flat against the wall. Vex walked closer. He was humming a low song. He was happy. He was thinking about his victory. He walked past the statue. He walked past the shadow. He was 2 feet away from Alex. If Vex had turned his head, he would have seen a distortion in the air, like heat coming off a road. But he did not turn his head. He was too arrogant to look into the dark corners. He thought he was safe. Alex watched him pass. He saw the scales on Vex's neck move as he breathed. He saw the weapon holster on Vex's hip. Alex could have taken the gun. He could have cut the holster strap. He could have tapped Vex on the shoulder. It was a test. It was a game of nerves. If Alex made a mistake, if his suit made a sound, or if he touched Vex, the game would be over. Vex kept walking. He opened the bedroom door. He went inside and closed it with a loud click. The room was quiet again. The 3 officers were still typing and talking. They had no idea that death had been standing 3 feet away from their commander. Alex slowly moved away from the wall. He walked silently across the room, stepping over cables and around the furniture. He moved toward the main door. He needed to leave before the cameras came back online. He stopped near the glass table. The officers were looking at their screens. They were distracted. Alex reached into a small pouch on his chest. He took out a small, silver object. It was a coin. It was an American quarter. It had the head of an old president on it. It was a simple thing. A piece of human currency. He placed the coin on the glass table, right next to where Vex had been sitting. Then, he vanished into the vent by the door. He was gone. The officers finished their work. One of them stood up to stretch. He looked at the table. "What is this?" the officer asked. The red-scaled female looked over. She saw the silver coin. "Where did that come from?" "I do not know," the officer said. "It looks like human money." "Vex must have dropped it," the female said, dismissing it. "Probably stole it from the human diplomat." They laughed again. They threw the coin into the trash. They did not understand the message. They did not know that the coin was not lost. It was a marker. "I was here," the coin said. "I could have killed you." The game was just starting. Alex was already planning the next move. The door to Commander Vex's bedroom slid shut with a heavy thud. The sound echoed in the large room, but to Vex, it sounded like the slamming of a cage door. He stood alone in the center of the room. The lights here were dimmer, set to a relaxing blue hue, but Vex did not feel relaxed. He walked over to a small table and poured himself another glass of the dark purple brandy. His hand shook just a little bit. He gripped the bottle tight to stop the trembling. It was just the alcohol, he told himself. He was not drunk, but the strong drink affected his balance sometimes. He sat down at his heavy wooden desk. He needed to write the final report for the Emperor. He switched on his holographic screen. A blue keyboard appeared in the air above the desk. He started to type. "The human delegation is weak. They show no backbone. Today, I assert." Vex stopped. He looked around the room. It was quiet. Too quiet. The air recycling system hummed softly, but he could hear something else. It was a very faint sound. A rhythmic beat. Thump thump. Thump thump. It was his own heart. He looked at the door to the main room where his officers were working. They were just a few feet away. If he shouted, they would come in instantly. He was safe. He was the commander of a fleet. He was the strongest predator on the station. He took a drink of the brandy. The liquid burned his throat. He felt warmer. He turned back to the screen. The human, Tom Miller, is cowardly. Suddenly, Vex saw something on the corner of his desk. It was small and round. It was silver. It was reflecting the blue light of the holographic screen. Vex stared at it. He blinked his large black eyes. It was a coin. It had a human face on it. Vex frowned. He reached out his hand to touch it, but then he pulled back. He remembered the main room. He remembered seeing the coin on the table earlier. He remembered his officers saying Vex must have dropped it. But he had not dropped it. He had never had this coin in his pocket. He had never touched human money. A cold feeling went down his spine. It felt like ice water was flowing in his veins. He looked at the coin again. It was sitting right next to his hand. He had been in this room for 5 minutes. The door was locked. No one had come in. Unless they were already in here. Vex stood up quickly. His chair scraped loudly against the floor. He drew his sidearm. It was a plasma pistol, heavy and deadly. He pointed it at the corner of the room. The corner was dark and empty. "Who is there?" Vex shouted. "Show yourself." There was no answer. The room was silent. Vex walked to the closet. He opened the door with his gun pointed forward. Empty. He checked the bathroom. Empty. He looked under the bed. Nothing. He stood in the middle of the room again. He was breathing hard now. His chest moved up and down rapidly. He looked at the coin again. It was just sitting there, mocking him. "How did you get here?" he whispered to the coin. Then, he heard it. It was not a loud noise. It was a soft sound. Like a piece of cloth brushing against metal. It came from behind him. Vex spun around, firing his gun. Zap! A bolt of blue plasma hit the wall, scorching the black stone. There was nothing there. Just the wall and the shadows. Vex backed away until he hit the edge of his desk. He was sweating now. The sweat ran down his scales and into his eyes. It stung. He wiped his face with his free hand. "You are imagining things," he said to himself. "It is the stress. The humans are playing tricks with your mind." He knew about human technology. It was primitive, usually. But they were tricky. They used stealth. They used deception. But they did not have technology that could make a person invisible. Did they? He felt a breath of air on the back of his neck. It was cold. Vex froze. He did not move. He did not breathe. The air in the room was still, controlled by the station's thermostat. There should be no wind. But he had felt it. A soft puff of air, right on his neck. Slowly, very slowly, he turned his head to the left. Nothing. He turned his head to the right. Nothing. Then, a voice spoke. "Commander." The voice was soft. It was calm. It was deep, but it sounded like a human voice. It came from directly behind his right ear. Vex roared in fear and anger. He swung his arm backward, trying to hit whoever was speaking. His arm sliced through the empty air. He hit nothing. He stumbled and fell against the desk. The glass of brandy tipped over and shattered on the floor. Purple liquid spread everywhere like blood. Vex scrambled to his feet. He pointed his gun in every direction. He was trembling uncontrollably now. His heart was beating so hard it hurt his chest. "Stop hiding!" Vex screamed. "Fight me!" The room was silent. Vex looked at the coin again. He realized what the coin meant. It was not a prank. It was a warning. "I can kill you anytime," the coin said. "I can touch you. I can stand next to you. You cannot see me." Vex felt small. He felt like the primate he had called Tom. He was the prey now. The hunter was in the room, watching him panic. Enjoying his fear. He ran to the door. He punched the code to open it. The door did not open. He punched it again. Still, it did not open. He was locked in. "Let me out!" he yelled, banging on the metal door. On the other side of the door, in the main room, the officers heard the noise. They ran to the door. "Commander," one of them shouted through the metal. "What is wrong? Open the door." I cannot." Vex yelled back. "There is someone in here. Open it now." The officers typed in the override code. The door hissed open. Vex almost fell out of the room. He pushed past his officers, looking wild-eyed. His weapon was still in his hand. He looked around the main room. It was bright and full of people. It was safe. "Commander, what happened?" the red-scaled female asked. She looked into the bedroom. The room was empty. The glass was broken on the floor. There was a scorch mark on the wall. But there was no enemy. Vex stood in the middle of his officers. He looked at their confused faces. He could not tell them the truth. He could not say that a ghost had whispered in his ear. He could not say that a human had infiltrated the most secure room on the station. I had a nightmare, Vex lied. His voice sounded weak. I tripped. I am fine. He looked back at his bedroom. The shadows in the corner looked deep and dark. He knew the human was still there. Or maybe he had left through the vents. It did not matter. The invisible man was gone for now, but the fear stayed. Vex walked to his chair. He sat down heavily. He looked at the reports on the table. He looked at the map of the galaxy. He did not feel like a conqueror anymore. He felt exposed. He felt like a target. Tomorrow, Vex said, his voice shaking. Tomorrow, we will be careful with the negotiations. The officers looked at each other in surprise. They had never seen Vex act like this. But they did not argue. They nodded. Vex stared at the wall. He knew that somewhere, watching him, was the human he had punched. And he knew, with absolute certainty, that death was right there, waiting for him to make a mistake. The morning sun of the station, which was actually an artificial light panel on the ceiling, shone brightly into the main council chamber. The room was a large circle with tiered seats. In the center, there was a round table where the delegates sat. Today was the final day of talks. The mood in the room was heavy. The Krillorian Emperor appeared as a giant blue hologram in the center of the table. He looked angry. He stared down at the human delegates. The Krillorian Empire demands the moon, the Emperor's voice boomed. It is a small price for your safety. Refusal is an act of war. My fleets are already on the edge of your system. The room went silent. The other alien delegates looked at the humans. They expected the humans to surrender. They knew the humans were weak. They knew that the human diplomat, Tom Miller, had been beaten and humiliated the day before. They thought he was broken. Tom Miller sat in his chair. He looked calm. He wore the same cheap suit he wore the day before. His lip was slightly swollen and there was a yellow bruise on his cheek. It looked painful. But his eyes were clear. He adjusted his glasses and looked up at the giant hologram. We cannot accept these terms, Tom said softly. The moon is ours. We built cities there. Millions of humans live there. We will not give it up. The Emperor laughed. It was a terrible, loud sound. You speak boldly for a species that bleeds so easily. Commander Vex, tell him. Tell him what happens when humans defy us. The spotlight moved to the other side of the table. Commander Vex sat there. Usually, Vex would be standing up, shouting, and pounding the table. Today, he was slumped in his chair. He looked pale, even under his gray scales. His eyes were red, as if he had not slept all night. Vex looked at Tom. He saw the bruise. It was the mark Vex had left. But then, Vex looked past Tom. He looked at the dark corners of the room. He looked at the ventilation shafts near the ceiling. He remembered the night before. He remembered the coin. He remembered the whisper in his ear. He remembered the feeling of breath on his neck. He had spent the entire night sitting on his bed, holding his plasma pistol, staring at the door, too terrified to turn off the lights. He knew the human was here. He was somewhere in this room. Watching. Waiting. Commander Vex, the Emperor asked angrily. Confirm that the humans are weak. Confirm that we should take the moon by force. Vex swallowed hard. His mouth was dry. He looked at the hologram of his emperor. He wanted to be strong. He wanted to give the order to attack. but he felt a cold chill on the back of his neck. It was a phantom feeling, but it paralyzed him. He imagined the invisible knife hovering inches from his throat. If he ordered war, he would die. He knew it, the human predator would not let him leave the station alive. "No," Vex said. His voice was quiet. "What?" the Emperor roared. "Speak louder." "No," Vex said again, louder this time. He stood up, but he was shaking. We should not take the moon by force." "Not yet." The room gasped. The other delegates whispered to each other. "Explain yourself," the Emperor shouted. Vex took a deep breath. He could not tell the Emperor that he was afraid of a ghost. He had to make it sound like strategy. He looked at his datapad, though he was not really reading it. "The humans are more determined than we thought," Vex lied. "Their technology is improving. If we attack now, it will be costly. We need time. We should offer a treaty. A temporary one." The Emperor looked confused. "You fear them, you fear these soft creatures." "I do not fear them," Vex said, though sweat was dripping down his forehead. "But I respect their unpredictability. It is better to be cautious. We will wait. We will sign the provisional treaty." There was a long silence. The Emperor could not believe his ears. His fierce commander was backing down. But the Emperor trusted Vex's judgment in military matters. If Vex said it was a trap, maybe it was. "Very well," the Emperor hissed, clearly unhappy. "We will sign. But do not think this is over, humans. The Empire will return." The hologram faded away. The tension in the room left like air out of a balloon. The other aliens were shocked. The humans had won. They had kept their moon without fighting. Tom Miller stood up. He buttoned his jacket. He looked tired but satisfied. "Thank you, Commander," Tom said to Vex. "I am glad we could reach an agreement." Vex did not look at Tom. He was looking at a spot on the wall behind the human delegation. He gathered his papers quickly. He did not say a word. He just wanted to leave. He wanted to get back to his ship and fly away from this station. Vex walked out of the council chamber as fast as he could without running. The other Krillorian officers followed him, looking confused and embarrassed. Tom watched them go. He smiled a small smile. He fixed his tie. He picked up his briefcase. He walked out of the chamber and into the long hallway of the station. There was a large window at the end of the hall that looked out into space. There was a small balcony there, mostly used for smokers or people who needed fresh air. A man was standing on the balcony. He was leaning against the railing, holding a cup of coffee. He wore a gray uniform and had a datapad on his belt. He looked like a normal security guard. Tom walked over to him. The man turned around. It was Alex. His face was relaxed. His eyes were calm. "Good work, Tom," Alex said. He took a sip of his coffee. "You looked good in there." "You too," Tom said. I saw Vex's face. He looked like he saw a ghost. "He saw something worse than a ghost," Alex said. "He saw his own death." He couldn't focus on the treaty because he was too busy trying to stay alive. Tom leaned on the railing next to Alex. They looked out at the stars together. "Did you have to scare him that much?" Tom asked. "He punched you, Tom," Alex said simply. "He broke the rules. He needed to know that actions have consequences." Tom rubbed his bruised jaw. "It still hurts. I think you hit me harder than he did." That was training, Alex joked. This was business. They stood there for a moment in silence. Below them, the station hummed with life. Aliens from 100 worlds walked around. They talked and traded. They argued and laughed. Most of them thought humans were weak. They thought humans were just the baseline. They did not know that the quiet man in the gray suit was the most dangerous thing on the station. They did not know that the human diplomat had a shadow that could kill anyone, anywhere, without being seen. The Krillorians will be back, Tom said, looking at the stars. Next time, Vex might send a whole fleet. Let them come, Alex said. He finished his coffee and threw the cup into a recycling bin. We are good at surviving. And we are very good at hunting. Alex pushed himself off the railing. He stood up straight. His posture changed instantly. He went from looking like a tired security guard to looking like a soldier. He looked alert. Ready. I have to go report, Alex said. I have to write about how I guarded the door all day. Go ahead, Tom said. I'll see you at dinner. Alex nodded. He walked away down the hall. He turned a corner and vanished. Tom Miller stayed on the balcony for a little longer. He looked at the reflection of his face in the glass. The bruise was dark purple. It would be there for a week. It was a reminder of the struggle. But as he touched the bruise, he smiled. It was a small price to pay. The humans had won the day. They had used diplomacy, yes, but they had also used fear. They had shown the galaxy that humans were not just soft bodies. They were smart. They were brave. And if you pushed them too far, they would send someone you couldn't see. They would send the wraiths. Tom took a deep breath of the recycled air. It smelled like metal and ozone, but to him, it smelled like home. He turned around and walked back to his office. He had a lot of paperwork to do. Peace was hard work, but it was worth it. Especially when you had a friend like Alex watching your back. The starship Ironwool moved slowly through the darkness of space. It was a human ship, designed for long trips. It was not very large, but it was strong. It had thick metal walls and powerful engines. On the outside, it looked like a simple transport vessel. It carried food, equipment, and diplomats to different worlds. But inside, in the lower decks, there was a secret room. This room did not have windows. It had computers on every wall. It had maps of stars and planets. It had lists of names. This was the office of the Watchers. They were the people who watched the galaxy to keep humans safe. Alex sat at a desk in the corner. He wore a jumpsuit that was the same color as the walls. He was typing on a keyboard. His fingers moved fast. He was writing a report. It was a boring report. It said that the trip to the Unity station was peaceful. It said that the diplomat, Tom Miller, was safe. It did not mention the invisible suit. It did not mention the knife. It did not mention the night in Vex's room. That was classified information. Only a few people in the universe knew what really happened. Tom walked into the room. He held a mug of hot coffee in both hands. He looked better today. The bruise on his face was turning yellow and green. It was healing, but it was still ugly. He sat down in the chair next to Alex. We are leaving the station's range, Tom said. He took a sip of his coffee. The captain says we are jumping to light speed soon. Good, Alex said. He did not look up from his screen. I don't like that station. It smells too clean. Tom laughed softly. You just don't like it because you spent the whole night crawling in air vents. Alex stopped typing. He looked at Tom. I like the vents. It is quiet there. People are noisy. Tom looked at the main screen. It showed a view of the back of the ship. The Unity station was just a small dot in the distance now. Soon, it would be gone. Do you think Vex will be okay? Tom asked. Alex shrugged his shoulders. He is alive. That is more than he deserved. He will be scared for a long time. Maybe for the rest of his life. I hope he learns from it, Tom said. I hope he realizes that humans are not toys. He will, Alex said. He knows now. He knows that the darkness is not empty. He knows that we can be anywhere. Suddenly, a red light flashed on the main computer. A loud beep filled the room. Alex turned his chair around to face the big screen. We have an incoming message, he said. It is on a secure channel. From Earth? Tom asked. No, Alex said. He read the information on the screen. It is from the Krillorian Empire. It is marked as personal for you. Tom raised his eyebrows. For me that is strange. Put it on the screen. Alex pressed a button. The star map disappeared. A face appeared on the screen. It was not Vex. It was an older Krillorian. He had white scales and many scars on his face. He looked serious and tired. Tom stood up. This is Ambassador Tom Miller of Earth. To whom am I speaking? I am High Elder Carr, the alien said. His voice was deep and slow, like rocks grinding together. I serve the Emperor directly. I am calling regarding the incident at the Unity station. Tom looked at Alex. Alex was watching the alien carefully. His hand was resting near a hidden panel on his desk, just in case. I am listening, Tom said. The commander, Vex, has returned to the capital, High Elder Carr said. He arrived 2 hours ago. He is, not well. Tom waited. He did not say anything. He is in the medical bay, Carr continued. He is exhausted. He refuses to sleep in the dark. He keeps saying that there is a ghost on his ship. He says that the ghost has a human face. Tom felt a chill, but he kept his face calm. Vex had a stressful negotiation. Perhaps he is just tired. Carr looked at Tom closely. The alien's eyes were like black holes. We do not believe it is just stress, Ambassador. We scanned his room. We found your coin. Tom nodded slowly. I gave him a coin as a token of peace. The coin was not the only thing we found, Carr said. We found fingerprints on his desk. They were human. But Vex was alone in the room. The security sensors showed no one entered. But the air sensors detected a tiny disturbance. A shift in the air pressure. As if someone was breathing. The room was very quiet. Tom and Alex looked at each other. They had underestimated the Krillorian sensors. They had not realized the aliens would check the air pressure. We know about the wraiths, High Elder Carr said suddenly. Tom tensed up. The secret was out. But Carr did not look angry. He looked respectful. We have heard stories, Carr said. From other species. The ones who fought you in the past. They said you have soldiers who cannot be seen. They said you have warriors who can walk through walls. We thought they were myths. Stories to scare children. But Vex believes them now. Why are you telling me this? Tom asked. Because the Emperor is curious, Carr replied. And because we are not fools. We do not want to fight an enemy we cannot see. Vex made a mistake. He treated you like a weak animal. He learned that you are a sleeping predator. Carr paused for a moment. We have decided to honor the treaty, Carr said. We will leave your moon alone. Not because we fear your fleets. Your ships are still slow. We are honoring it because we do not want to wake the rest of your kind. Tom smiled a little. That is a wise decision, High Elder. There is one more thing, Carr said. Vex will be punished. He will be removed from command. He brought shame to the Empire by letting a human scare him. We prefer leaders who are not afraid of the dark. He will have a long time to think about his actions in a quiet cell, Carr said. I am glad to hear that, Tom said. Just one question, Ambassador, Carr said. He leaned closer to the camera. The one who was in the room. The one who breathed on Vex's neck. Was he a high-ranking soldier? Was he a general? Tom looked at Alex. Alex was staring at the screen, his face blank. He looked like a simple security guard. No, Tom said. He was just a junior officer. One of many. Carr's eyes widened. The alien looked scared for a second. He quickly tried to hide it. Many, Carr repeated. Of course. Thank you for your time, Ambassador. Good luck to you. To all of you. The screen went black. The connection ended. Tom let out a long breath. He sat back down in his chair. His legs felt a little weak. That was close, Tom said. They suspected, Alex said. But now they know. They know we can get to them anytime. Tom looked at the yellow bruise on his arm. He looked at the empty screen. It worked, Alex. We bought peace. Not just for now, but for a long time. They are afraid of us. Alex nodded. Fear is a good shield. The ship's engines started to hum louder. The stars on the screen began to stretch into long lines of light. The iron will was speeding up. They were going home. Alex stood up. I need to go clean the suit. It has dust from the vents. Okay, Tom said. Alex. Alex stopped at the door. Yes. Thanks for watching my back. Alex smiled. It was a very small smile, barely there. That is my job, Tom. That is what we do. Alex left the room. Tom sat alone for a while. He watched the stars streak by. He thought about Vex, sitting in a bright room, shaking with fear. He thought about the Krellorian Empire, looking over their shoulders, wondering if a human was standing in the shadows. They used to call humans the baseline. They used to call them weak and soft. But now, when the lights went out in the galaxy, the aliens would think twice. They would remember the story of the diplomat who was struck. And they would remember the friend who stood behind him. The friend who was never seen, but was always there. Death had walked the halls of the Unity station. And Death had a human face. Tom finished his coffee. It was cold now, but he didn't mind. He stood up and went to the bridge. He had a report to write to Earth. He would tell them that the mission was a success. He would tell them that the galaxy was a little safer today. And somewhere in the dark lower decks, a man in a gray suit cleaned his knife. And he waited for the next time the galaxy needed a reminder.